Welcome to Strip Coverlet, where we squeeze the bigger picture out of literature. I'm Adrian Fort, and we're here for the 32nd in a 275-ish part series, I believe, as we journey poem by poem through Sylvia Plath, The Collected Poems. This is a poem discussion, which will appear in two separate playlists here on the channel. Number one being the poetry discussion playlist, now over 350 videos strong. And number two, the Sylvia Plath playlist, of which this is, of course, the 32nd video. Now, the poem in question today is known as The Goring, and it's a little bit of an ugly poem to look at, but I was done no favors by Microsoft Word itself here. So it's not exactly as it appears on the page, but we're going to get through this anyway. The Goring. Arena dust rusted by 4 bulls' blood to a dull redness. The afternoon at a bad end under the crowd's truculence. The ritual death each time botched among dropped capes, ill-judged stabs. The strongest will seemed a will towards ceremony, obese, dark-faced in his rich yellows, tassels, pom-poms braid, the picador. Rode out against the 5th bull to brace his pike and slowly bear down deep into the bent bull neck. Cumbrous routine, not artwork. Instinct for art began with the bull's horn lofting the mob's hush, a lumped man shape, the whole act formal, fluent as a dance, blood faultlessly broached, redeemed by sullied air, the earth's grossness. There is in this poem, for me, a deep irony. The deep irony of this poem is that this may be the poem from Sylvia Plath. Of the poems I have encountered from Sylvia Plath, probably now in the 50s, this may be the most immediately readable, the most immediately easiest to read, but simultaneously very difficult for me to understand. Now, what do I mean by that? It's pretty easy to see everything that's happening on the page. All of the goings-on of this poem are pretty obvious, I would say. However, what is the deeper message here? We have on the page a bullfight, a goring, the ceremony, the quote-unquote sport of all of this. But it's difficult, I think, to find the rich underbelly, right? It is difficult to find the fruitful soil underneath the words. It is difficult to look at this poem, read this poem, and say, oh, okay, I know it's about the bullfighting, but what's it about, right? There is the subject of the poem, the bullfighting, and there is what the poem is really about. Sometimes in situations like this, where a poem is very on the surface, but difficult to drill down further, what I like to do is read the poem one more time and look for something that stands out. Look for, maybe it's a simple word, maybe it is a single idea, perhaps it is, if it's a word or an idea, maybe it is a single line or phrase that just sticks out from the poem, and therefore we get a little purchase. We get some purchase on the poem to climb a little bit higher. The Goring. Arena dust rusted by 4 bulls' blood to a dull redness, the afternoon at a bad end under the crowd's truculence. The ritual death each time botched among dropped capes, ill-judged stabs. The strongest will seemed a will towards ceremony. Obese, dark-faced in his rich yellows, tassels, pompons, braid, the picador rode out against the fifth bull to brace his pike and slowly bear down, deep into the bent bull neck. Cumbrous routine, not artwork. Instinct for art began with the bull's horn lofting the mob's hush, a lumped man shape. The whole act formal, fluent as a dance. Blood faultlessly broached redeemed the sullied air, the earth's grossness. I don't know about you, but I don't know where in the world, where are we at here? Art came from here. Wrote out against the not artwork. Where does this idea come from? Is this Sylvia Plath's conception of the creative process? Is it possible that what we're getting here from Sylvia Plath is a little bit of meta poetry, poetry on poetry? Maybe this is going too haywire with this poem. Maybe this is not giving the Goring itself the respect that it deserves. But I think that there is a little bit of room here for interpretation with what that struggle means. Hemingway often used bullfighting as a metaphor, and it seemed in his stories to be a metaphor either A, for masculinity, or B, for the difficulty of life. You wake up and you fight. The world of art is rusted in this poem by the blood of the subjects it covers. Now, if we remember in this series, now I don't believe that you have to read other poems to get this, but I think we can infer a little bit more. The previous video in this series, the previous poem in the collection, is known as Fiesta Melons, and it takes place in Benidorm, which is in Spain. So with that and the bullfighting, I think we can assume that this does too. And in Spain, bullfighting isn't sport, it's culture. Art also is culture. Do we have the link between writing and bullfighting? Writing may or may not be art. Art being culture, bullfighting being writing. May or may not be culture, may or may not be sport, may or may not be art. But remember, though this poem itself refers to the bull, so in that way, the struggle between the writer and the writing, the struggle between the artist and the art, is celebrated, as we see here. The thing must be wrestled, as we see here. It is something that is difficult, the art, as we see here with the bullfighting. They are things, we have the commentary on the picador in question. We have the commentary on we have here that he's obese, dark-faced in rich yellows, tassels and pompons braid the picador as he rode against the fifth bull to break his pike and slowly bear deep down into the bull neck. Cumbrous routine, not artwork. We have the judgment on the picador in question that this picador is not producing art. This is a hack, a writing hack. And it's worth noting that if this is a struggle with the creative process, the poem itself refers to the bull deaths in general, and here, this Goring itself, it refers to these things. It refers to this process. It refers to the bullfighting this poem does as ritual, as ceremony, as formal. But sometimes, as our title does remind us, as the poem itself gets around to reminding us, sometimes art does not go this ceremonious fashion. Sometimes, maybe the art kills you back. That is all I have for this poetry discussion. If you like or appreciate what I do here on the channel, hitting the like button really does help me out, as it tells YouTube to share this video with other literature lovers. And if you find yourself here by chance but not design, consider hitting the subscribe button in order to stick around for more poetry. There's poetry on the channel every Monday. We just got through reading through Dubliners. Every short story in Dubliners there's a video for. We're going through the Fincavigia edition of Ernest Hemingway's short stories right now. We just are trucking through the latest Stephen King book, if that's for what that's worth. And there's poetry every Monday. It's been Sylvia Plath on Mondays for quite a while now. This is an important read-along for me because Sylvia Plath is a poet that gives me a whole lot of trouble. So, hey, I hope to have you back for the next one.